The courtroom was cloaked in a suffocating silence, the kind that made every creak of the wooden benches and rustle of paper feel like a thunderclap against the stillness. A heaviness hung in the air, dense and unmoving, as if even time itself was holding its breath. People shifted uneasily in their seats. Whispering had ceased, and the only sound was the faint hum of the ceiling fan turning in lazy circles overhead. At the center of it all stood a small figure, dwarfed by the mahogany witness box. His name was Elijah Thompson, just 7 years old. His hands clung to the railing, as if it were the only thing keeping him from being swept away by the magnitude of the moment. His fingers trembled. His eyes, large and brown, darted around the room, searching for anything familiar, anything safe. But there was nothing, only strangers in suits, a judge in black robes, and a man in uniform sitting just a few feet away. The judge leaned forward slightly, her voice soft but steady. "Do you understand why you're here today, Elijah?" The boy nodded. His lips parted as if to speak, but no sound came out. Then, slowly, his right hand rose, shaky but deliberate, and pointed across the courtroom. At the receiving end of that tiny, trembling finger sat Officer Bradley Knox. The room froze. The officer's jaw clenched, his eyes narrowing slightly, but he didn't flinch. Elijah's voice came, so faint it could have been mistaken for a breeze. "It's him," he said. "He's the one who hurt my mom." A collective gasp erupted across the courtroom like a crashing wave. Officer Knox rose abruptly, the legs of his chair screeching across the floor. For a heartbeat, it seemed like the walls themselves recoiled. The judge slammed her gavel, demanding order, but the damage had already been done. From that moment forward, nothing would ever be the same. To the casual observer, it might have looked like the confused accusation of a grieving child, too young to understand death, too fragile to grasp truth. But for those who had seen Elijah's eyes in that moment steady, unblinking, etched with something far older than 7 years, they knew something deeper was at play. This wasn't just a child pointing a finger. This was a reckoning long overdue. Elijah Thompson was never meant to be here. He was a quiet boy, one who loved drawing dinosaurs and building forts out of cardboard in the living room. His world had always been small and safe. His mother, their dog buddy, and a yellow house with the peeling shutters on Walnut Avenue. But everything changed the night his mother didn't come home. He had waited by the window, nose pressed to the cold glass, until a patrol car pulled up the driveway. He recognized the man who stepped out, Officer Knox, the friendly cop who always smiled and waved from his cruiser. But there was no wave that night, no smile, just a stiff nod and words that would shatter Elijah's world. "There's been an accident," Knox had said, voice too calm, too clean. "Your mom, she's gone." But Elijah knew something wasn't right. The story didn't make sense. Officer Knox's uniform was speckled with something red. And Elijah remembered what his mother told him just a few days before. "If something ever happens to me, baby," she had whispered, brushing his curls with her fingers, "don't trust anyone, not even the police." At the time, he didn't understand. But now he did. The unraveling began a week later in his second-grade classroom. While the other kids sketched sunny parks and flying superheroes, Elijah drew something different. His teacher, Mrs. Patel, watched him draw a police officer, a woman lying on the ground, and a car with headlights like angry eyes. When she knelt beside him and asked, gently, what it was, Elijah broke down crying. "That's Officer Knox," he sobbed. "He hurt my mom. He made her go away." Mrs. Patel, shaken, filed a report. Most dismissed it as the grieving delusions of a traumatized child. But not Elijah's grandmother, Dorothy Thompson. She had raised 2 daughters in a city that taught her to question the powerful. And something in Elijah's words chilled her. She hired an attorney, Maya Delgado, a firebrand defense lawyer known for taking impossible cases. Delgado met with Elijah, listened patiently, reviewed the police reports, and decided this was more than just a child's imagination. This was a cover-up. As the trial began, the prosecution labeled Elijah confused, overwhelmed, manipulated. But Delgado painted a different picture of a corrupt officer, of stolen silence, of a child being the only witness to a truth the system wanted buried. Elijah's testimony became the trial's heartbeat. He described the night in vivid, startling detail: the headlights, the shouting, the sudden silence, and how Officer Knox had shown up later with a different uniform shirt than the one he left in. But Delgado knew words alone weren't enough. They needed something solid, and Elijah had it. "I have something," he whispered on the third day of trial, reaching into the pocket of his blazer. He pulled out a crumpled receipt, yellowed at the corners. "My mom gave me this. She told me to keep it safe." It was a gas station receipt, time-stamped just hours before her death. On the back, in her handwriting, was a license plate number: Officer Knox's personal vehicle. Delgado had the station's security footage subpoenaed, and what they found stunned even the defense team. The footage showed Officer Knox arguing with Elijah's mother, Camilla Thompson, in the parking lot. It got heated. She shoved something into Elijah's coat, presumably the receipt. Minutes later, the footage cut out, tampered with, the analyst said. Now, this wasn't just grief speaking. This was evidence. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Officer Knox remained stoic, but his eyes were alert too alert. And then came the moment the town would never forget. Officer Knox took the stand. He looked directly at Elijah. His voice was measured, his tone carefully composed. "I didn't hurt your mother, son. I tried to save her. Sometimes people die, and there's no one to blame." For a split second, Elijah hesitated. His eyes flicked to Delgado, then back to Knox. He remembered the warning, the blood, the night without answers. And he shook his head. "You're lying," Elijah said, steady now. "You hurt her. I saw you." The final day of trial felt like standing on a wire above fire. Delgado presented the final piece: GPS data from Knox's car, showing it was parked near Camilla's home for 40 minutes longer than reported. Phone pings matched. The station footage was entered into evidence. And then Delgado turned toward Knox. "Officer Knox," she asked, her voice low but piercing, "why did you kill Camilla Thompson?" Knox's mask cracked. His jaw tightened, eyes flicking from the jury to Elijah. "She was going to ruin me," he said, voice suddenly raw. "She found out about the money. I was helping confiscate drug funds, but some of it went missing. She found out. She threatened to report me. I panicked." His shoulders slumped. "We argued. She slipped. I didn't mean to, but when I saw what happened, I panicked. I covered up. I thought I could make it go away." Gasps filled the room like rising smoke. People clutched the arms of their chairs. Elijah's face twisted, not in fear, but in something older. Disbelief. Betrayal. Vindication. "You pushed her," Elijah said, his voice unwavering. "She didn't fall. You didn't try to help. You made her go away." The jury took hours. The weight of a child's truth, the unraveling confession, the crumpled receipt, all of it swirled into something unshakable. The foreman stood, voice grave. "We, the jury, find Officer Bradley Knox guilty of obstruction of justice and manslaughter in the death of Camilla Thompson." Knox's face went white. His hands shook as he clung to the table. No longer the image of authority, but of a man undone by his own lie. Judge Franklin didn't look at Knox when he spoke. He looked at Elijah. "Your voice, young man," he said slowly, "has reminded this courtroom what justice truly means." Then he turned back to Knox. "Your badge once stood for service. Now it stands for betrayal. You are hereby sentenced to 15 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole." The gavel struck like a hammer through stone. As Knox was led away, Elijah sat still, hands clenched in his lap. His grandmother wrapped an arm around him. Tears fell freely now, but not from fear. From something else. Closure, perhaps. Strength reclaimed. Outside the courtroom, reporters shouted questions. None were answered. Elijah, now holding tightly to his grandmother's hand, walked past them all. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He had already said everything that mattered. And somewhere, he liked to think, his mom was watching, proud of the boy who never stopped believing her, who never stopped telling the truth, who stood alone in a courtroom and won.